Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Generally Speaking podcast, where we learn about the people and places and stuff at Herkimer County Community College. I'm your host, Robert Gassman, and today we have a very special guest, another one of my teaching colleagues from the criminal justice area. Katie Stables is with us today on the podcast. Katie, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me here.
It's my pleasure. We're taping this on March 26th, so I'm going to make a reference to the weather. And how's the winter been treating you?
Not too bad. I can't complain.
It's hanging in there pretty good, that winter weather. Katie, you've been here at the college for a long time, and I say that because I've been here for a really long time, but how long have you been working with us here at the college?
Next year will be 20.
Wow.
20 years. Yeah, it is.
Wow,
Yeah.
yes.
2006
Yes,
is when I started.
20, that's the year you get the appropriately teardrop-shaped thing that
Yes, I'm
says
looking
you've been
forward.
here for 20 years. That's terrific. And you're teaching in the criminal justice area. So
Yes.
this is a really big field, it seems like, and one that gets more and more attention as we go through time every year. What aspects of criminal justice are you teaching in your classes here?
So I'm responsible for, my title is actually Professor of Corrections. So I teach Introduction to Corrections, Probation and Parole. But I'm also responsible for criminology and juvenile delinquency, which are the theory courses. And in those courses, we basically explore the concepts and understandings surrounding why people commit crime and how certain things become illegal, and analyze those things, crime trends. And those tend to be actually the more, I don't know if I should say popular classes, but the classes that students are a little bit more interested in. So when I first started here, corrections courses were a little bit, I think, fuller, but there's been a lot of changes over the last couple decades that have changed that. And so not as many people want to go into corrections. So
Yeah, corrections been in the news quite a bit here in New York State
yeah,
lately.
not in a good way. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
the students who are taking your classes, what kinds of careers are they angling toward? What kind of things are people doing while they're taking your classes? What are they trying to accomplish or get to?
Well, one of the patterns that we've noticed over the last probably 10 or 15 years, we have a lot more female students in the field, but what we also find is that they're a little bit more undecided on what they want to do. A lot of students do come in and specifically want to do policing of some sort, and part of our job is to help them figure out their skills and what types of things they feel like they're good at. But a lot of students come in undecided. They're interested in criminal justice. They watch shows or they watch, TV, things like we were talking about earlier, common or popular shows. And then they're kind of like, I like it, but I don't know what to do. But a lot of them still want to do law enforcement. A few we get lawyers. Occasionally I'll have students who want to do probation. And the field that I came from was I worked in juvenile corrections. So I do sometimes have students who ask me about that job and, what I did and that type of thing. But it used to be almost solely, police.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're definitely seeing a little bit more of that, whether it's crime scene investigation, but then others saying, well, what about the FBI or what about federal agencies? And so, most of the CJ teachers, we try to give them more information and give them ideas of what they could do beyond just policing.
Mm-hmm.
So
The people that are going maybe directly into policing, do they go into a four-year program after they leave the college, or are they more likely to go straight into the police force somewhere?
So it depends. The standards have changed over the years, actually, at a lot of police departments because they're struggling to actually get staff and to get people to take civil service tests. So it used to be a lot of the departments required a certain number of credits. State police require, I believe, up to 60 credits. So the ones who want to do that will definitely go on. Typically go on to get a bachelor's degree. The students who want to do the federal government, any type of work there, we tell them you have to get a bachelor's degree.
Mm-hmm.
But you actually can go into policing with just a high school diploma.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, whereas 10 maybe years ago, you couldn't do that. You had to have at least a year of some type of coursework. But I know just for a fact now, I think Rochester and Syracuse Police right now currently don't require any college credit. So, yeah. So some of that has changed a little bit over the years.
So we have a program now called Police Academy, right? And
Yeah.
Is that specifically designed to bring people to a point where they are ready to go into the field and start?
Yeah, there's a
doing
few
policing?
phases, that you have to go through to become an actual police officer. And so actually Mike Massey, who is our new forensic investigations instructor, He actually runs that, and that is, that's a phase one. It's all, DCJS qualified and all the things you would have to do to basically get into policing. And we've had quite a few actually graduates over the last few years who went right into some type of police work. I have two students right now. One is a state trooper, and the other one, she actually is a sheriff's deputy in Otsego County. So they both went through phase one, but they also did both get their associate's degree here as well. So, which to me is probably the perfect combination. So
I'm curious to know how students find these majors or find these careers. Do students tell you that when they come in, like, I got interested in police work because my father was a police officer, or maybe it's from watching a TV show? I really don't know, because it seems like there is an awful lot of popular entertainment around law enforcement, writ large. So how do people find their way to these majors?
I've found since I started teaching here that a lot of it can start from TV shows, but we have a lot of students who have parents who've either worked in corrections, worked in probation, worked in the federal government, or been police officers, and they either want to continue that tradition or they are interested in a TV show and they're trying to explore that. I often have students in my criminology or juvenile delinquency classes who are interested, so they take it as an elective, but they're not CJ majors. And so sometimes they'll say, oh, maybe I could do this. Maybe this is something I could do. But it really depends. Sometimes it is people that they know. But we do find a lot is social media. A lot of them watch videos, whether it's reels on Instagram, TikTok, and we'll talk about those things in class. And then we'll talk about, is that reality? What does that look like? And sometimes just having those conversations can help. But I know for myself and the other faculty for CJ, we're talking to them from day one. What do you think your skills are? Where do you see yourself? And sometimes I'll stop in the middle of class and I'll ask students, right? I always tell them that this is a stepping stone to a career. And if you don't have an understanding of what you want to do or what you're good at to help connect you with that career path, it's going to be difficult. So we start from day one saying those things. Or sometimes I'll point out things to students and I'll say, you have a lot of patience, or you have this, you have that. I think you should look into doing policing. And I'll have female students who will say, I don't know, I don't see myself doing it. And I'll say, why? Tell me why. And they can't quite tell me. And I'll say, it's not what you think it is. And so we try to give them a reality of what you see on TV versus what really policing is or probation is like. So I think that helps. But yeah, we find students, it really depends, but there's a lot where they watch TV, they watch a show, they get excited about it, and then they're more interested in class, which makes my job easier. So
do you have a lot of people who are general studies majors? People who might be taking,
yes.
A potpourri of courses from different areas of the college, and do they often find their way into and create an interest in maybe police work or something like that? They
do, and occasionally I have a student, actually I just ran into him a couple weeks ago, and he took one of my classes. He was a gen studies major when he came here probably 10 years ago, and we actually went on a corrections trip, and we visited correctional facilities that year, and he came, and he became a corrections officer maybe 2 years after that. He never thought of it. He went in, he saw it, and he said, do you think I could do this? I said, sure. And he had no idea what he wanted to do, but for him connecting that with a career path, and he wasn't even criminal justice. So it does happen, yeah. And I have quite a few right now in my criminology class right now that are general studies. I have a couple, actually I have a music student, I have a business student, so they come in just to take it for the fun of it, and then they get really interested in it, so.
Yeah, that's always nice when that happens. It happens once in a while in my own major. I teach in communication and media. No big surprise there. But that's always interesting when that happens, because that is, I think, still the largest major on our campus. Is that still the largest number of?
No longer, but I think we're down to 3 or 4 now. Psychology and sociology, actually.
Are they the largest majors?
I think they come second. I think they come right after business.
So it's not general studies.
It's general studies, I believe. General studies, business, and psych. It used to be general studies, business, and CJ, and we got bumped on.
Listen, when students have come to me when they were enrolled in one of my programs, said, I'm not really sure if I want to keep doing this, I always say something like, cite a statistic that says more than half of the people who enroll in a college program will change their major before they ever earn a degree. So it's an extremely common thing to do. I did it when I was in college.
I did too.
I changed my major. So, this is a great place to start out and dip your toe into the pool to see if you like something. And more often than not, it sticks. So,
yeah, definitely.
So I happen to know, and I'm going to share with other people who are watching, you wear another hat on this campus. In addition to being a professor, you are the president of the Professional Association, which is the union that represents full-time faculty and technical assistants, coordinators on our campus. How many years have you done that, Katie?
I think this is the end of my 4th.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Time goes
It,
fast.
it went really fast.
So yeah, I wanted to tie that in somehow to talk about, how that informs your day-to-day work on this campus, because this is an extremely important job. I had the privilege of being the president of our union a number of years ago, and I know that it's full of gratifying moments sometimes and some challenging moments.
Yeah,
So
very.
what are some of the most gratifying experiences you've had so far in your role as president of our little union?
Well, I mean, there's a few situations or things I can think about. I think one of the things that I probably enjoyed the most was trying to get our group to feel unified and to think about others in the group. And you always have people who are concerned about their jobs or something going on specifically with them, which they have every right to feel. But my goal was to try to keep everybody understanding that we're all in it together. And that's the way you accomplish things, and that's how you create this union strong sort of mentality. So that part was challenging, but at the same time, we got T-shirts, that. We were just talking about that before, trying to get people to kind of feel like they're part of a team instead of what they're upset about individually and then coming and sort of complaining or griping about it. But I think in general, getting to know some people I probably should have known before that and only got to know them because they had situations come up in their offices. But I also really enjoyed working with administration and trying to create, relationships that I felt would be more positive and to try to, and hopefully that would move forward initiatives or things that we wanted for our group. And some of it I think was successful and, some of it not so much. But I think it was a huge learning experience. And I've gone to you. You've been my vice president. I've gone to you on many occasions. There have been many times I wanted to quit because it does take up not only time, the physical time, but it takes it up in my brain. And, thinking and worrying. Yeah.
Gets
and
expended.
worrying. Yeah. So, but overall, it's been a really positive experience. And, I'm hopeful that we'll have somebody else taking over for next year.
Yes, we're
and
getting ready
continue on.
ready to pass the torch,
Yeah.
and I'm looking forward to the next phase.
Yeah.
I do want to compliment and thank you because I think you've been terrific at some of those things you just mentioned, in particular in building and maintaining a relationship with the administration, the people we work for.
Thank
and
you.
I want to make sure everybody hears me say that because that's a very, very difficult thing to do, and it wasn't something that I found myself particularly adept at when it was my turn to do it. I always felt a little put off sometimes, and maybe in the long view of time it wasn't what I needed to do or feel, but I think you've done a really excellent job in doing that and
Thank you.
keeping the lines of communication open when sometimes that's really tricky to do when people have opposing goals. It's
Yeah.
true. So in police work, are a lot of the municipalities, are they union shops?
Yes, most of them are. In fact,
I know the state police certainly are.
yeah,
right?
and the corrections are as well. And actually, I was just talking to my class the other day. If anybody's not familiar, there's been some issues within facilities in 2 local facilities recently. There were some incarcerated individuals' deaths, and corrections officers were involved in those. And so there's been a criminal investigation. The governor's gotten involved, and again, some people don't necessarily look at the news or watch, but it's affected our area locally. We have a lot of people in this area who are employed at those facilities. It's definitely impacted some traveling that we wanted to do. My CJ students, we were trying to go to facilities, and they're not allowing that now, understandably. But I also think I had to explain this to students about how unions work because they were talking about COs, protesting and all that. And I said, well, a lot of it will depend on, you technically can't strike. And I explained how when corrections officers strike and they just don't work and they decide not to go to work, the facility has to go into lockdown. And so nobody can do anything. And then when incarcerated people are stuck in their cells all day long, it actually can create more of a problem. And so I said, it's interesting. You have the politics coming in, and then you have people coming in trying to fix issues that have really been going on for a really long time. And so I can kind of see both ends of it. Some COs are just exhausted. I know that the former student I have told me there were times he worked 24-hour shifts. He said, the next person doesn't show up to relieve you, you can't just leave because it puts the entire facility in a bad situation. And he said they're tired. There's not enough staffing. And I said that there's so many issues that have to be dealt with. But I told them that that's part of where the union comes in, that they have been fighting to say, hey, we can't work these long hours, and they don't want to put their coworkers in any danger, so they stay. And so you see those lines sort of cross between working in criminal justice and then seeing the need for union representation. Somebody to come forward and say, how can you work? How can you physically do this job if you don't even get a break, right? If you can't even go home and get a few hours sleep. So, yeah, so it's interesting to sort of see that crossover. Excuse me.
Has that been something that you have found useful to consider based on your own role as the president of the union here on the campus? Because certainly the concerns of the employees here are probably different than those who might be working, say, in a correctional facility. But maybe in some other ways, there are a lot of the same concerns.
They are,
right?
yeah. It's doing extra hours, and maybe what they thought was going to be extra pay turns into something else. And, you know, our students' lives on the line? Are there dangerous situations that occur because of it? Not necessarily, but I don't know if we would ever really know, right? And that's why the union has to stay strong. We have to make sure people are doing what's within their job description, that people aren't overworked, that they are paid the way they should be paid, right? And we got to remember, too, that the reason why we're here is for the students. I just told students yesterday, this is your college. This is your college, and you know, you should have a say in things that go on. Go to student government. But the reality is that in order for us to educate our students, be mentors, and to serve them well and support them well, we have to also have good working conditions. So
It's true. It's true. It was interesting that I got to thinking about it just as we're talking about it. But a lot of the things that are specific to a contract, and I don't know how much people really understand how that works, especially, you know, working in the public realm as we do, how important it is to adhere to a contract and the specificity of it, both to the benefit of the employee and here, the benefit of the student.
yes, definitely. Yeah.
Katie, is there anything else you need to get off your chest while you're here on the Generally Speaking podcast? Anything else you'd like to say?
I don't think so. I appreciate you having me here. I hope I was helpful and half interesting.
100%, more than half, 100% interesting. Okay, well, that's going to wrap it up for this edition of the Generally Speaking podcast. Thanks again to Katie Stables,
you.
our guest, and we will see you again next time right here. Thanks for watching.